mind, spirit, or mechanics, the quantum leap from void to being. Chapter 6. Chakras as phenomenological maps of internal experience. The chakra system is one of the most widely recognized and most widely misunderstood frameworks in global spiritual traditions. In its modern Western form, it has been reduced to a simple diagram of 7 colorful circles along the spine, each tied to vague themes like grounding, creativity, power, love, expression, intuition, and connection. This version, shaped heavily by theosophical reinterpretations from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, is only a faint echo of the original system. To understand what the chakra system actually describes, and why it matters for a scientific account of human experience, we must return to its roots in Vedic and Tantric traditions, understand what the original practitioners were doing, and examine how their descriptions relate to modern neuroscience's understanding of interoception, autonomic regulation, and the spatial organization of bodily experience. The word chakra means wheel or disc in Sanskrit. In early Vedic texts, it referred to the wheel of a chariot or the sun, symbols of cosmic order and cyclical time. Its use to describe subtle energy centers in the body emerged later, especially in Tantric traditions from around the 7th century CE onward. The text most influential in shaping the Western understanding is the Chakranirpa, written in 1577 by Prananda Yati. It describes 6 primary chakras along the central channel of the subtle body, the Sum-Na with Macron, with a 7th, the Sahasrara, the 1,000-petaled lotus at the crown, transcending the system. Each chakra is described with elaborate symbolism, a specific number of petals, a color, a seed syllable, a presiding deity, an element, and a set of psychological and spiritual qualities. The associated practice, Qualan Yoga, involves awakening a dormant energy at the base of the spine and guiding it upward through the chakras to unite with pure consciousness at the crown. Traditionally, this was not a casual wellness exercise but a demanding and potentially dangerous discipline requiring years of preparation and guidance. What were these practitioners actually doing? From a neuroscientific perspective, they were engaging in a sophisticated form of interoceptive training, learning to sense, interpret, and regulate the internal signals of their own bodies. Interoception, a term introduced by Charles Sherrington and later expanded by A. D. Craig and others, refers to the brain's perception of the body's internal state. Signals from the heart, lungs, gut, bladder, muscles, skin, and other organs. These signals travel through small nerve fibers to the spinal cord and brainstem, pass through the thalamus, and reach the insular cortex, where they are integrated with emotional and cognitive information to create the felt sense of being alive, what Antonio Damasio calls the background feeling or protoself. Crucially, interoceptive signals are not evenly distributed. They follow the anatomical layout of the autonomic nervous system. The pelvic region corresponds to the sacral parasympathetic outflow, regulating bladder, bowel, and reproductive functions. The abdomen corresponds to the celiac and mesenteric plexuses, which regulate digestion. The solar plexus region corresponds to the celiac ganglia and splanchnic nerves, which regulate the adrenal glands and stress response. The chest corresponds to the cardiac plexus and lungs. The throat corresponds to the pharyngeal and laryngeal nerves, which regulate swallowing, vocalization, and breathing. The face and forehead are densely innervated by the trigeminal nerve and closely linked to frontal brain regions involved in executive function, social cognition, and self-awareness. The crown of the head corresponds to cortical midline structures, the medial prefrontal cortex and precuneus, central to self-referential processing and experiences of transcendence. Because of this organization, different emotional and physiological states are felt in different regions of the body. Fear is felt in the gut, the sinking sensation produced by sympathetic activation. Anger is felt in the chest and arms, the heat, tension, and urge to act. Love is felt in the heart, warmth, expansion, softness. Shame is felt in the face and upper chest, heat, constriction, the urge to hide. Grief is felt in the throat and chest, tightness, heaviness. Confidence and power are felt in the solar plexus and chest, upright posture, expanded breath. These are not metaphors. They are real physiological sensations produced by specific autonomic patterns. In a landmark 2014 study, Lori Namenma and colleagues mapped where people feel different emotions in their bodies. The resulting topographical maps were consistent across cultures and closely matched the traditional chakra locations. The ancient tantric practitioners, through decades of disciplined interoceptive training, developed extraordinary sensitivity to these bodily signals. They learned to distinguish their spatial locations, textures, and relationships to emotional, cognitive, and spiritual states. What they mapped was not a supernatural energy system but the topography of interoceptive experience, the internal geography of what it feels like to inhabit a body. The symbolic imagery of the chakra system, colors, deities, seed syllables, elements, is the cultural framework used to organize and transmit these observations. The symbols are culturally specific, the underlying sensations are universal. This does not mean the chakra system is just interoception, as if interoception were trivial. On the contrary, interoception is now recognized as foundational to emotional life, decision-making, social cognition, and the sense of self. Damasio's somatic marker hypothesis proposes that emotions arise from the brain's representation of bodily states and that these embodied emotions guide choices and social understanding. Interoceptive accuracy, the ability to perceive one's internal signals, correlates with emotional awareness, empathy, intuitive decision-making, and emotional intensity. Interoceptive dysfunction is linked to anxiety, depression, eating disorders, alexithymia, and depersonalization. The ancient practitioners were not engaging in superstition. They were cultivating a fundamental human capacity, the ability to feel the body from within, to a degree that modern people, living in a culture that constantly distracts attention away from bodily sensation, rarely experience. Their maps endure because they describe something real, the structured, spatial, emotionally meaningful landscape of the living body as experienced from the inside.